Well, one man who knows Britain's high streets better than almost anyone is Bill Grimsey. For over 4 decades, he's been involved in businesses from the bottom rung right to the very top. He's brought together a team of experts to conduct his own review into the problem, and I'm delighted to say that he joins me live in Margate now. Bill, it's a real pleasure to meet you. Thank you so much for coming to Margate to talk to us tonight. We're meant to be a nation of shopkeepers. What do you think's gone wrong?
Well, first of all, can I just applaud the statements that were made earlier in the programme from Mary Portas, who must be acknowledged as raising the profile of the High Street, and the Government Minister for acknowledging what we've been saying for the last 2 years, that you cannot save high streets based on shops alone, and it has to be a holistic solution because technology is changing the way we behave, and the millennium population, that are 13 today, are going to grow up in a different world.
Who's responsible, though, for the high street in this country? Because if you look at how the government's laid out, you've got the business secretary, you've got the transport secretary, you've got the planning secretary, all putting a little bit of their own kind of power into this area. It looks very disjointed, doesn't it?
It is disjointed, and you've hit the nail right on the head. We need a government minister for high streets and town centres. There are 95,000 businesses in the UK operating in high streets and town centres. It is bigger as an industry than the whole of the health budget, the education budget, yet we don't have anybody sitting above it actually ensuring there's some joined up thinking to make things happen.
Would you like the job if they offered it to you?
Well, I'm not a minister, so
okay, but how about a new high street czar? Would you like that role?
I've had 45 years in retailing, and it's time for me to enter a different life stage, and if I can put something back, then I will.
Okay, tell us your ideas. How would you change, for example, a high street like Margate, which is right behind us now? What would you do, Bill?
Well, the first thing I wouldn't do is try and save it with some sort of retailing approach. This needs a holistic approach to become a community hub. As I've been saying for the last 2 years, we have to have health, education, leisure, morning, daytime, nighttime cultures all accommodated for to attract people. But the most important thing is this housing change. We have a housing shortage in this country, and why not bring populace back into our town centres?
What would that do?
Well, it keeps people living here. So then you will need some shops, not as many as you had before. And if you can have a technology strategy where you wire the town in a different way, you use the library in a different way, and it becomes a community hub, then I can see some progress. But the big question is, what does Margate stand for?
So every high street or every town in the country has got to find their unique selling point, has they?
They do. They have to be treated like a brand. That's the only way forward.
Now, Eric Pickles has been criticised. He's the local communities Secretary of State in our country for putting a Tesco right there, right behind us now. Would you have signed off that massive supermarket, given that your background is in supermarkets?
Well, I think you need to look at how much space is all around, and I can't comment about Margate specifically.
But a supermarket's the monsters here, because they are sometimes labelled that way.
No, supermarkets haven't brought about this change. We as consumers have, in our droves over the last 20 years, poured into these places because it's convenient, we use cars, our culture has changed, and it's going to change again because of technology. So we've got to embrace that change and turn these towns into something else, community hubs with a reason to be. What does Margate stand for? And I'm afraid it's not come to Margate for a dirty weekend. That was a gimmick.
Okay, just very quickly, 25 years' time, next generation's time, how are our high streets going to look, Bill?
Well, they're going to look very different. They're going to be community hubs with lots of people living in them, with all sorts of different housing, and with an older generation, because there's going to be a lot more of us by then.
And you might be in charge. We look forward to seeing you there, and congratulations. Thank you very much for joining us tonight.